Good morning to all my students. Hope you all are doing well. Today, I am going to discuss with you about the comparative politics. We are trying to figure out, what is comparative politics. Trying to understand in a very comprehensive manner, what is actually the comparative politics and why does it matter, to all of us, especially my students of political science and maybe other people who may be interested to trying to understand what is actually comparative politics. Why do we make a contrast between one political system with another political system, between one political unit with another political unit? So let me just begin my lecture. Let me just start illustrating and trying to explain to all of you. First, I am going to talk about what, how I am going to define, comparative politics. Comparative politics is comparative study of other countries, citizens, different political units, either in whole or part, and analyze the similarities and differences between those political systems, political units. So once we are dealing with comparative politics, what we are doing actually, we are trying to figure out what sort of similarities or differences are there between one political system in comparison to another political system. So once we are making a contrast or between two different political systems, maybe between democracy versus democracy, then we want to find out which democracy is better, more successful or more having a strong, political system as compared to another democratic setup or democratic system of governance. So it is about trying to understand different political processes, different political activities, different, whether the political system, formal system or informal system. All we are going to understand citizens, the human development, political development, civil society, the role of pressure groups, in that political system, the role of how much people are, taking active participation in political matters or in political, how much the voices of the people matter. And from all that we are going to discuss from holistic point of view. And therefore, when we are trying to generally define what is comparative politics, so comparative politics can be defined is it is the comparative study of other countries, citizens, different political units, either in whole or part. You can make a comparison entire political system with another political system, but preferably what we prefer in comparative politics, we take one unit or one component of one political system. For example, let's say legislature. We take legislature and then compare one legislature with another legislature, with another country. So then what is our goal, what is our objective, why we are doing this exercise? It is for the reason to understand the similarity and differences between two different political systems. Or mostly what we do actually in comparative politics, we prefer to make a comparison between the similar systems with similar systems, or with dissimilar system with dissimilar system. For example, democracy versus democracy, or authoritarianism versus authoritarianism. So it is for the purpose to get the exact results, to make the results more easier exercise. Because once you are comparing democracy versus authoritarianism, the trying to get the results would be somehow difficult, because the two political systems are entirely different. Then, so what is actually the comparison? When I am saying comparison, the word comparison, what do we mean by this word comparison? It means that we are trying to understand the comparative political system, different political systems, different, whether democracies or authoritarianism, whether Islamic countries or any other political system around the world. So once we are trying to compare, that means we are trying to make contrast, we are trying to juxtapose, we are trying to understand one political system in the light of another political system, trying to figure out what are the differences and what are the similarities between those political systems. And for that purpose, what we are doing, by comparison we mean the points of relativity. Comparison means the points of relativity. Relativity means, for example, when we are comparing one democracy with another democracy, what we are trying to figure out, that which democracy between the two is the most successful, most advanced, and most vibrant democracy, as taking into consideration their political experiences, taking into consideration, how that political system has been successful, legitimate, and so on and so forth. Trying to understand the political development, economic advancement, and also the, how much the voices of the people matter. And from all aspects we are going to understand which political system is playing how much, role. And once we are trying to compare two political systems, that we are trying to understand in terms of uh, relativity, points of relativity, that which is smaller, that means bigger. For example, which democracy is the most successful democracy, which democracy is less successful, or which democracy is developed one, or most progressive democracy, or which is the not so progressive. So in that point of view, we want to understand one political system in comparison to another political system, trying to figure out, the points of from the points of relativity point of view, that which is smaller, which is bigger, which is more successful, which is less successful, which is developed, which is less developed, and so on and so forth. So then when we are talking about comparative politics, in comparative politics we are primarily, connected to political activities. We are trying to analyze the different political activities in one political system, trying to figure out what is the political process. When we are talking about the political process, it's a bigger term, it is a broader term. It includes all the political apparatus and all the political activities which are going on in that, how that political system actually working in a holistic way. Then political institutions, whether legislature, executive, judicial, that means the formal structure of the government, or as well as the informal structure of the government. For example, you have the civil society, you have the NGOs, you have the pressure groups, you have the lobbyists, you have the, the people, and you have many other, army, you have many other institutions, then women organizations, and many other, which are also part of the informal, uh, informal structure of the government. So we are also trying to figure out their role, in one political system in comparison to another political system. Okay. And then we are also trying to understand, primarily the political behavior, that how one, individual or different groups they behave, for example, in one political system, and how they are behaving in another political system, whether they are silent spectators when it comes to the voting, whether they are showing the, they are taking a lot of engagement, they are taking active participation in all the affairs of the state. And so we are going to see the, the political activism of the all the people, especially who are the part and parcel of that country, who are the citizens of those countries. So we are trying to also figure out, we are trying to understand the, or analyze, you know uh, political behavior of individuals and groups. uh, then we are also trying to understand, we want to understand the public policy, that how policies are made in one country, and how policies are made in another country, and what is the nature of the policies. And we want to understand everything, in a very comprehensive manner, that what kind of policy one country is actually having, and what kind of policy another country is having, what is in the change in the policy, what is the shift in the policy. So we are going to understand the policy making, framework in the context of one country, and especially the public policy, and in the context of another. So we are trying to see some sort of difference and some sort of similarities when it comes to the political activities, political process, political institutions, formal, informal, political behavior, and public policy. Then how we are going to do, what kind of methodology, because in comparative politics, methodology plays a very important role. So when we are trying to understand, because Arvind Lijpot, a great scholar, he is focusing mainly on the methodological process, on methods, methodology in comparative politics. So when we are talking about the methodology, what kind of methods, research methods we use in comparative politics, we may be using methods of qualitative method of analysis, and we may be also using quantitative, like we are using statistical based analysis, or we are also going to use, when we are going to use both of them, that means we are using a mixed methods or mixed study. So what is actually happening, that in comparative politics, what methods of analysis and investigation is used, that is very important. That means It is not a general study. Rather, we are using some methods of analysis. We are trying to figure out everything from the quantitative or qualitative and as well as mixed methods. So we use a very strong research methods in order to find out the differences and similarities between one country and in comparison to another country. Then we want to understand, the similar systems. What is our analysis? How we are doing it actually? We prefer to make a when once we are trying to compare one political system in comparison another political system, in a comparative politics we prefer to make a comparison between similar system with similar political system. That means democracy versus democracy, authoritarianism versus authoritarianism, Islamic political system versus Islamic political system. So because it will give you the exact results, it will give you the exact value. Okay, the results would become very easier to get. Otherwise, when you are comparing one similar political system with dissimilar political system, and the results to get exact results would be somehow very much tougher task, and it would you would there is nothing wrong that you cannot compare between the similar system with dissimilar system. But what is actually the happening to get the results is going to be somehow tougher task. So what we prefer that we are trying to figure out the similarities, differences, or trying to make a contrast and between the two similar systems. That means democracy versus democracy, Islamic system versus Islamic system, or the communism versus communism, socialism versus socialism, socialist countries. So authoritarianism versus authoritarian countries. So then we are also trying to figure out, for example, dissimilar systems with dissimilar systems. That once we are making a study, we are comparing also dissimilar system with dissimilar system for the purpose of to get the exact results. Okay. Now let me just conclude my lecture. Why we are doing this study? Why we are dealing with this comparative politics? What are our main agendas? What are our objectives? And that is very important. What is our bottom line? First is that to figure out or to mapping out what are the similarities and differences between the two similar political system or two different political systems. So we want to understand the principles of similarities and differences. It is for the reason that if, for example, one political system is a progressive political system, suppose that is say America, United States of America is the most liberal, democratic, most successful democracy in the world. So, for example, if we compare it with another political system, suppose let us say South Africa, for example. So if we are making a comparison, then definitely you are going to say that it is the United States of America which is, from the liberal democratic point of view, it is most advanced political system from taking into consideration all the ideals of democracies, that makes the liberal democracy or liberal democratic system of the United States of America more stronger and more progressive when once we are comparing it with South Africa. So here, so we are trying to make similarities. We want to see what sort of similarities are between South Africa versus United States of America, and what are the differences. What are the differences, different points we want to study, and then also to figure out which is the unique political system. So once we are dealing with the comparative politics, or we are studying comparative politics, our motive is, our objective is to understand which political system is very unique political system and why. What are the things, what are the principles, and what is the role, what is the performance, on what basis one political system is getting the recognition that that political system is becoming a very unique political system, very successful political system. We are trying to understand. And why we want to understand why one political system is unique, because it is for the purpose that how another political system which is not so powerful, which is not so developed, which is not so unique, can take a lot of good experiences, can get good points from that political system in order to go for reformation, in order to go for regeneration, in order to go for for restructuring and for reform, and so that is nothing wrong. For example, if one country can look at the good experience from of the another country, then there is nothing wrong that one country can get a lot of ideas, because after all we are living on human planet. We can get a lot of good things from others. So we can learn a lot of good things from others, and there is nothing wrong to doing that. Okay, let me just also, so once we are making a comparison, we are getting a lot of important points. That means by comparison we are trying to rectify. On one side we are trying to learn from the good experience of one political system, and on the other side we are trying to rectify our weaknesses. We are trying to go for reform, we are trying to go for regeneration, we are trying to make a better experience. Okay, and finally I can say, by comparison, contrast, and juxtaposing the different political systems, what lesson we are actually learning and getting from the here. And that is, it is a good lesson. That means it is a good experience. And what is that good experience? That it is, there is nothing wrong that how one democratic political system could learn from the good experiences of the another political system. And that is going to make a possibility that another political system is going to make its political system more stronger, more vibrant, and make a bigger change in that political system, so that it will also become successful when it comes to the real aspirations of the people, when it comes to the conversion of demands of the people into decision making process, when it comes to making the country very much stable, free from war, making the economic development sound, making the political development very sound, and also making a democratic process very strengthened and bolstered. And if one political system is doing that, once we are comparing, once we have a once we are trying to compare one political system with another political system, that means we have a lot of possibilities, that we have a lot of good points. We can rectify, one country can rectify some of the mistakes or some of the weaknesses, by learning from another political system. And therefore I can say, the comparative politics, it plays a very huge role, it plays a very crucial role, trying to understand different political system in contrast, trying to understand, trying to figure out which political system is unique and why it is unique, and how one political system can learn from another political system. And let me just stop my lecture here. Thank you so much for hearing my lecture. See you next time.